Hi, folks. Welcome to Andy's Photo Show. I'm your host, Andy McSweeney, and here we are at episode 1. It seems like I'm on air. Yes, I think I'm on air. If not, hello and welcome to Andy's Photo Show. I'm definitely on air now. I'm your host, Andy McSweeney, and thank you for dropping by, especially here for episode 1. I don't know if we're going to have any viewers on this thing, so this is going to be interesting. As you might have seen, I've done a couple of test episodes over the month of September, and here we are officially on the proper. I've just got to manage my own show, guys, so thank you for my little weaves and bobs. Yep, we're looking good here, except for the wife playing me on her iPad at full volume, but I think that's going away. Yep, we're on air. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, as I say, to episode 1. This is going to be a weekly photography show that I'm holding for 1 hour every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central European Time, or Bruges time if you prefer, because of course that's where I'm based. I'm a professional working photographer in the sense that I do this for money and for love and for everything in between. So bully for me and lucky for that. Over the last little while, I've wanted to do this, and here we are finally, so I'm really excited and just looking at my notes to make sure we don't get too off track. Today, folks, we're going to be talking about travel photography. You're going to be able to ask me anything by leaving a comment over at Andy McSweeney Photography for this live feed. And assuming I see it within the next hour, I'll be able to answer that and hopefully help you with your photography, which at the end of the day is one of the central goals of this show and little thing that I'm going to be doing here. If you're catching this live but don't have more than 2 minutes, don't worry. It's going to be on Facebook from time of broadcast, of course. And then tomorrow it'll be on YouTube at youtube.com/Andy McPhoto. So there's that. And I suppose, as I'm mentioning websites, names, and all that, I do have to thank you if you enjoy this episode to please share it, like it, leave a comment saying you enjoyed it, all that sort of stuff that pushes it out further into the public or up the algorithm. Really helps me out, especially in these early days. And we're going to see where it all goes from here. Right? Right. Okay. My notes say to talk for a minute about stuff while hopefully a few more people join in. I'm not going to talk about much for long, guys. That's part of why I wanted to keep this an hour episode. I think before anything, want to mention that I refitted my website over the last couple of days. So andymcsweeney.com. If you head over there, you won't have galleries greeting you on the homepage and then just episodes of my weekly podcast below that. You will see all sorts of options and services and things that I do. From this show that's starting now and has already had a couple of test episodes to my twice monthly audio podcast, This Photo Life, which of course you can follow on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, etc. But yeah, all that and more is over at andymcsweeney.com. And if I have any suggestions for your photography based on what I got up to after sweating out a cold for 3 days and hitting the website out of not being able to sleep, look at your stuff. Keep it fresh. Don't be afraid to go back, and it's worth your while. Or at least I hope you think so, because the website's for me, but also for you. All right, well, we are rolling along, and there are a few viewers. Hello, viewers. Thank you for dropping by. Again, reminding you, just leave a question in the comments, and presuming I see it, I'll be able to give that an answer, and we'll see what we can do. Please keep it focused on travel photography, whether it's technique, whether it's gear, whether it's places I might suggest you check out for your photography or holiday needs. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I'm just pulling up another browser window so that I can hopefully see those questions. I do find Facebook is a little come and go on this. Hi, Eve. I'm seeing your comment. Hello, my friend. All right, that's good. So, tell you what, while I let some questions roll in, especially as we're here in the early days with just a few people, what I thought, gang, is I'm going to walk you through some of the stepping stones and basics to travel photography. We're going to start off with the packing and the gear and all that sort of thing and what I recommend and what I'd consider, even if I didn't pick it up myself. And then if there are no questions, well, I can do this all night, my friends. I can talk photography till the cows come home and the zombie apocalypse is fully upon us. So even if you don't have questions, I'm ready to babble on photography. I miss it so much from doing my thing as Photo Tour Bruges on a daily basis. My, of course, lovely little photo tour here in Bruges. You know it. I hope you know it. But yes, I love talking photography. We can do it all day. So why don't I stop talking about photography and talk about photography? How sophisticated. All right, we are on to travel photography. As I say, reminder to leave your comments in the your questions in the comments. Boy, am I still new at this. Why don't we take it out of full screen, Andy, and just go to that? Because, of course, before we do anything, we have to remember to love everything in photography. Creativity, heart, passion. That's one side of the coin where you're making the art and speaking from the soul right there. And on the other side of that coin, you, of course, hit the practical side of love, which means caring and making the effort. Could be carrying more than your smartphone and figuring out how to use it. It could be waiting more than 2 minutes on a scene so that everybody gets the hell out of your way, or you just dissect that scene properly. And just in general, not to be rude, but it means giving a shit. So please give a shit and love everything in your photography, if that doesn't get me banned off Facebook for swearing. Hey, the online thing, this is a little different, kids. I'm a little more polite and don't say turd words right away on Photo Tour, but we are on the wild internet, so let's do it. Yeah. All right, let's get rid of that for a second and maybe go over to a Firefox browser. I think if we're talking about travel photography, and I'm just going to be picking from some sites, including the manufacturers. This is from 1001 Best Photography Tips, so please check them out if you find this interesting. They have a good little article here on the types of digital cameras, as we can see, and obviously I'm not just going to read off of this. I called this page up for reference so we could have a quick visual at the different types of cameras we're looking at. So you can see we have the large format, old school, badass, for all time, beautiful little piece of machinery over there. Not super practical for your travel photography, but if you are into a very particular type of photography with this is going to be something to consider. I actually had a couple who were guests on my photo tour. We can see photos if you like of the machine, but they came by with this, and what they did was FedEx everything over to Europe so that they could pick it up on the other side and not have to haul that through the airports. So that's the old school big boy badness, if you will. If you also want extremely high resolution and use this thing in very specialized ways, you can have very nice results. In the more practical modern sense, the camera next to it is a Hasselblad, which I'm hoping is a familiar name to some of you. They are one of the manufacturers of medium format cameras, where essentially the sensor size is about yay big, if you can see me on the camera. Well, let's say about that big. I'm not going to dig too deep into specs. You can check out articles like this for more. But essentially with that bigger sensor, with the larger sized optics that mean a little more visual refinement, you get a lot of power and punch. Fujifilm, as you know, I love them, and I love their medium format camera, the GFX system. That's gotten a lot of ground because it's very cost effective, and Fuji have shown that they know what they're doing with cameras and listening to their audience, putting out some interesting lenses, etc. Hasselblad is also a big player here, and you have, of course, Phase 1. That was getting a little off topic and maybe just flexing out some knowledge as it's a quiet year on photo tour. But gang, those are badass, serious cameras. They're not necessarily the ideal for travel photography because of their size and a couple of other things you got to think about. I mean, one of these systems, even at a budget end, is about 7,000 euros with one lens. So, you know, this for travel photography, you better be really into your photography and high resolution files, and probably landscapes, portrait, stuff that's a little more static, but you want to get on high resolution. Hope that makes sense. Next, we get to the ever popular digital reflex camera, DSLR. I hope I said that right. Gee, I'm nervous on air. Yes, this is, of course, the cameras that we know a little more traditionally. This is with a full frame sensor, which, like I said, with medium format is, of course, determining how much resolution and dynamic range and a couple other things you're going to want to think about. I find full frame a very acceptable medium for pretty much all my photography, and especially when it comes to travel photography, I'd find a mirrored camera like this, if you will, exactly what I'd be looking for, whether it's full frame or otherwise. I think the full frame sensor is really the deal breaker here, and I'm getting a little lost in my nerves. But yes, this will be something that you can consider if you're real into your photography. You can see next to it that there's another mirrored camera, which has got to be a crop sensor. So again, the sensor size shrinking down. A lot of these two are sort of melting into the next camera down the line, which technically is about rangefinders as far as this article goes, but we can really think about mirrorless cameras. They've ripped out the mirrors on these cameras and made things smaller, and essentially, I mean, you're losing about a third of the size and weight off of the camera when you go mirrorless. Whether it's a full-frame sensor from Canon, Nikon, Sony, as well as, I believe, a couple others, but they escaped my mind because I'm on air. And then you can easily get, of course, mirrorless versions of these by Canon, Nikon, Sony, as well as Fujifilm and a couple of others. Personally, when we're moving away from full frame to this crop sensor, I go for Fujifilm. That's the system I've invested in, and I'm quite happy there. As we can see here, there's this rangefinder design, which is also a little bit classically known towards Leica, the camera we're looking at. And again, this is where you start talking about sizes. And the conversation can, of course, sit on sensor sizes. But now we're talking about getting smaller and lighter, which is what I find interesting in travel photography. I mean, to step back from the descriptions for a second, that large format, it's too big, it's too impractical. The medium format sits there. The full frame, or even mirrored camera, if you want to talk there, that's very, very interesting. And I'm certainly going to consider that as a professional photographer, needing extra flexibility, maybe needing extra pixel sweetness. But when we get to this crop sensor design, I do find it starts shrinking down considerably into this rangefinder size of things, especially on Fujifilm, depending where you look. Then from there, they show a couple of other cameras. That would be a Micro Four Thirds system, which is a mirrorless camera system, and Micro Four Thirds is the mount. Olympus, Panasonic under the Lumix brand use it, and it's an open format. And again, the conversation sort of shifts into sensor sizes, but also into camera size, because this is going to be a relatively small sensor, about half the size of a full frame, if I'm thinking right, maybe a third. But you're going to get the size, flexibility, and everything else. And there are other things to consider about all this, but I mean, just on a base level, the size, the picture quality, especially in the last 5 years, you can't really go wrong when you're talking from the top and bottom of the cameras we've talked about. And then last but not least, we still use them and they can be handy. We got the old compact camera. 99% of these use a very, very small sensor, so a 3/4 inch sensor, which is about yay big. And I mean, as we've been talking about systems, we've talked about sensor sizes and prices and pro level stuff. So you can imagine when we get to a small sensor, there's going to be inherent limitations you got to consider there. But on the other side of things, that thing is tiny. You can slip that in your pocket. You can always have it with you. It's probably going to beat your smartphone, especially when we talk about the optics of zooming. And they're certainly not expensive, especially as the market sort of disappears into smartphones. And if nothing else, I'd consider one of these as a second or third camera as I do my travels. For us, we have a little Fujifilm waterproof, drop-proof FinePix camera. And I mean, I've gone swimming with that thing, which I can't do with any of these unless I pay something like 2,000 euros on average for a waterproof case. So, things to consider. Cameras and which one to choose are sort of a whole episode on their own, so I don't really want to get too lost too long there. He says checking around for questions and stuff. Oh, great, I'm seeing stuff. Hey, guys, hey. Yeah, but when you talk about travel photography, you can't ignore the cameras, and I think with this is certainly going to be a consideration. And also, as I've indicated, I mean, the budget is going to be part of it. If I have this, where is it? If I have the medium format, that, as I say, is 7,000 euros, but the compact is, geez, even if you go at the top end and get like a Sony RX100, which is certainly powerful beyond a basic compact, that's only 300-400, especially if you look secondhand or at an older model. All things to consider as we talk about travel photography, and of course that would involve cameras. Poking around for comments. The wife should be looking out if she ain't too distracted, because she has a little ADD herself. Ho, ho, ho. She just checked. All right, I got the team here, folks. Let's see. I'm reading these all raw, so hopefully I won't fall over the words and disrespect you guys. Eve, you asked me, Andy, in a few weeks I have a street fashion shoot with some models. Do you have some advice about lighting? Do I have a Portmondo studio flash or my big reflector? Eve, I could answer this, but we're talking about travel photography, and part of this not being too lo-fi, basic, or crappy is that I've got to not answer your question. I'm so sorry, man. I feel bad as a photo sharer on the education side of things, but you got to keep it to the travel photography. I would say if I was doing my travel photography, I probably wouldn't be carrying too many light rigs. Maybe I'd get myself a light cube for the bright LED lighting. And of course, a reflector is never a bad thing, especially if the sun's going to be a little bit funky. So you get half an answer there, and a tut-tut, keep it to travel photography. Same with the rest of you. Sorry, man. And he's cool, too. He's helped me out more than a couple times. So you can private message me that, bud. Maybe we'll do a portrait photography next week. All right. We got Lily recommending someone. We got Eve saying, sorry, no worries, bud. Like I said, message me if you're stuck. And hello, Lily in Mexico. Buenas tardes. Also, Landy Beaton says hi. Sorry if I go quiet on last names. I'm trying to give you guys some privacy. Nice to see some comments and some viewers. Thank you, folks. This is really fun. Fun to have you guys tuning in. And why don't we march forward on the travel photography advice? Like I said, please do not be shy to leave a question in the comments, especially over at the live feed on Andy McSweeney side of Facebook, so that I see that properly. Also, gang, I'm very much considering paying some bucks and being able to live cast this to YouTube. So if you're not a big Facebook fan, please let me know if you find that interesting. Also, where you think maybe a live broadcast like this might sit well. We're looking at Facebook, we're looking at YouTube, and we're looking at a couple others. So hey, help Andy out as he helps you out. Onwards and upwards on travel photography. We all know what type of camera we are looking at now, and we have made our choice. What are we going to put it in? A camera bag. Camera bags are useful, and they are a lifelong quest to achieve perfection on. I'm sure both by the manufacturers, but certainly as a user, I find that the camera bag is just such a difficult thing to nail down, and really just a personal, no, your line isn't skipping, personal choice that it's kind of hard to just nail it down to one bag. I have a variety of bags, and I hopped over to lowpro.com to check out one of the ones I have. It's actually been updated, but of course, you know, we got some choices here. This is the backpack section, and we'll get on to other designs in a minute. I have the, I have a different version of the Protactic. And you can see in here, as we click over to the website, just going to make 100% sure. Yep, you're all seeing that. You know, the backpack design overall, I'm a bigger fan of, especially for travel, because on the move, on the go, I'm going to be probably carrying a lot of weight in this thing, so I'd rather balance it out and not do one side of my body too much harm. That's just in the general backpack way. I'm a big fan of the Pro Tactic in this case, because as you see, especially if I click around, I'm sure, well, already, you see those little black loops where I'm hovering the mouse? Those I can put attachments on. So if I have a tripod, if I have a water bottle, if I have extra stuff that goes beyond the bag, just even before talking about what's in the bag, you can see I can get beyond the bag. You never know, and things might change, or you might carry heavy while you're in transit and then kind of leave a bunch of it at the hotel while you do rounds. So I'm a big fan of this model, and actually I have two of them since I had the chance to buy a second one cheap a while back. And I use this as my daily bag when I'm going out as Photo Tour Bruges, and a lot of the time when I'm doing my own photo shoots. Did we not take this? We took this to Paris, didn't we, my dear? Yeah, we took this to Paris. I didn't take it to Croatia because there's another bag I want to talk about. But yeah. And then when you get to a camera backpack, oh, look at that. It's got the cool accessory option of turning the belt thing into its own thing. I want to get inside the camera bag here, so I'm going to have to click around. And when you open a camera bag of this kind of thing, why don't we make it full screen? There we go, boys and girls. Look at that. Loads of room for loads of camera. This is their 350-liter version, so you can see it's very packed out. We're looking at certainly two big cameras, 1, 2, 3, 4 lenses, as well as 2 on each camera, a flash, stuff, things. You can see that the part that's down right now, the part that would be on your back, the main cover of this has space for your papers, your maps, your stuff, your things, your phone, whatever else, all the stuff. And if you look carefully, I'm sure I could click through to it. Maybe it's the next photo, but I won't waste too much time. Yeah, there we go. Lucky us. You can even squeeze a laptop in there, or a tablet, or travel book with loads of big illustrations, because you roll like that on the road. Those are the sort of qualities I've looked for in backpacks over the ages. Oh, there's the outside thing. But yeah, on the inside, overall, I'm going to be normally looking at traveling with a couple of cameras, and also I find just normally centralizing while I have this backpack to a bigger size. I can put some other stuff, my essentials, because I'm looking at this bag so carefully while I'm traveling so it doesn't get stolen. I can put other things of value, or just things that'll be handy while I'm in transit. So yeah, backpack-wise, I am a big fan of backpacks. Doesn't that make sense? Bag-wise, I'm a big fan of backpacks. You have your choice and variety, like you saw. We'll just go back a page so we can browse for a little bit more. All shapes and sizes, all varieties. Even things like if your back is starting to give out because you weren't using a backpack, or you had too much in the backpack, you can get a roller version and take it through the airports that way, through the roads, knock it around on the cobblestones of Bruges. And you can even get bags for your lenses individually, which I also find interesting, and have a low pro one of that attaches, of course, to my Pro Tactic. So if I have one of those big, huge telephoto lenses like we see right now, I mean, that could take up half of the interior almost, or at least certainly a third. So why not just buy a bag that goes on the outside, and at least when I'm in transit, I just nail it onto that next to the tripod on the outside exterior bit. So yeah, bag-wise, I lean towards backpacks, especially for the bigger travels. I find low pro are pretty good. I've noticed a bit of a shift in their quality over the last few years. I can't really say much on that, just other than my personal taste. There's obviously a few other companies to consider on that side of things, and we're going to get to that, well, I suppose just now. I'm going to take a quick peek for questions, because I want to hear your questions. What do we got? Oh, just people saying follow, which I love. Hey, Jeffrey, hello. Anything else? At least on here, I'm not seeing anything. So I hope if you have a comment, you haven't written it yet, but you're going to. Live TV. Boys and girls, let's move on and see what we can think about with travel photography. We were talking about bags because they're just so damn fashionable and practical. Let's move on from backpacks and also from Lowepro. This is Think Tank, another leading camera bag manufacturer that I find does pretty good. Now we're looking at a different design, and here I'll just make it black so that we're a bit uniform from what we were looking at. And this is, of course, a side bag. Luckily, this one is thought out in the sense that it has a nice thick padding so that if you are going to be resting everything on one shoulder, that it's going to be cushioned. And actually, I have the Retrospective 7, the first version, though, not version 2.0 that we're looking at. And when we crack this baby open, let's look at some photos, shall we? Yeah. Different layout, but same idea. You can pack your cameras, you've got your padding, you've got your stuff. You can even squeeze a laptop onto this one, too. On mine, you can do it on the inside and outside, and probably on this guy. I mean, this is just where you can think about things as far as your bags. The stuff has place and slots and even maybe designed for that particular piece of stuff. So stuff. You can pack it all in and have it on the road. I like this one. I like this one more for day-to-day photography, but there's a caveat for this for travel photography. I will probably bring the backpack for transit and maybe a big day trip if I'm on holiday or further bigger travels. But I'll keep that one with me, pack some clothes and stuff to use it practically, or even just squish it down in my big backpack if I have room. And then if I'm doing a little thing, I'll break out this guy and then make do with this compared to the big, huge backpack with room for my stuff like we see on the photo I randomly clicked. So yeah, big fan of the Retrospective and also the Lowepro that we talked about. One thing I would note, if at all possible, as you notice, this particular one comes in black, and it also comes in like a canvas greeny gray. I didn't have the chance because I had to buy it before travel, and it didn't have it in stock, but I highly recommend you get one that isn't that matte black that every camera bag is. On a future episode, and there's an entry on my website on andymcsweeney.com about theft prevention. That's something I'm going to talk about in a full episode on its own. But one little thing to reduce camera bag theft is to not make it look like a camera bag. And that does that very effectively. And it's another reason that I picked that guy up next to the pretty damn obvious camera backpack. Hope that helps. Let's check for questions. Any questions? Andy McSweeney is live, yes, but he does not seem to have any questions. That's all fine, gang. I have some viewers. Hello, viewers. Yes, viewers, if you are new, we're talking about travel photography. Leave your questions in the comments, or don't. I can talk about photography till the cows come home, especially travel photography. I have done enough of it since I've left my native Canada 25 years ago, if you want to get technical about travel. And 4 trips to India, here, there, traveling around with the backpack in the film day before that, Croatia with the wife, Paris, living in beautiful Bruges, running a photo tour, teaching travel photography. Yeah, it's not something I'm new to, so we can talk about that all day. And if you want to talk about it with your questions, do not be shy. I'm not going to beg. I'm just going to babble on about photography. This continues on the camera bag side of things. This is just for those of you who want to spend a little extra and also don't like the design of your traditional camera bag. This is from B&H Photo, by the way, just to point that out. Give them their cred on writing the article. But there are some nice brands here that are very much geared towards the very classy side of travel photography bags. You can see the Oberwerth Heidelberg camera bag. Very nice, very suave, very subtle. Then we just basically go through it. I mean, there's the Clifton. We got fig bags. This is all sitting at the luxury end of things. You got some variety, you got some choice. And when you crack it open, it's going to be much like a traditional camera bag in the sense that you will have pockets for your camera and all the things that we saw in the other bags. But, well, just that extra layer of fashion, style, groove, all that sort of stuff. Billingham also there. They're a huge name in the Classe bag market, so that's also to think about. And just wanted to point those out quickly without going through each and every one of them, that you have some options if you got the cash. Oh, my dear Lord. Oh, dear. Come here. Look at this. Okay, I'm not going to put the wife on camera, but look at that bag. You're safe. Oh, that's not my taste in fashion. I don't know if I'm judging or not, but oh my. Oh no. Captain, no. There's no accounting for taste. All right, you got your choices. Spend the money and you can have whatever you want. Quickly also, just on the last of bags, flipping over to an article by Fifth Avenue Girl, we got top 10 designer camera bags. These are the luxury cha-cha side of things, where you get into Chanel, Gucci, and all that class, girl. This is a little more away from big, serious, hardcore photography. You know, we're talking about basically the style and the name coming a little more first and foremost. I haven't done enough searching to find out what the insides look like. Maybe I'll send the wife on a mission to pick her favorite without us being able to afford it at all. However, if you want those options, like an Yves Saint Laurent that actually got the wife to speak on air, you got your choices. And yeah, it gets pretty interesting if you got the money, honey. Look at that. Oh, we got a... Oh, she says that's the one. Simple black gold chain and logo down the middle saying, I got one and you don't, bitches. All right. And with that, I'm going to take just a little pause because, of course, we're at, the halfway mark of the show. I can go over an hour if I want. And it is beer time here on the show. Thank you, wife. Thank you, Belgium. Thank you, viewers, for being here. Cheers and santé. Woo! That's a sexy bag. Hopefully I won't get gas on air. Way to drag the class right down, Andy. Are we enjoying Andy's photo show, boys and girls? Because this is what you've got to look forward to every week, Sunday at 8 p.m. Central European Time, over on Facebook.com/Andy McPhoto, and at the minimum the next day on YouTube.com/Andy McPhoto. We do not have Yves Saint Laurent money. We do not have a budget of any kind, but damn it, we can go window shopping. Moving on, away from camera bags and getting a good look from the wife. Are you entertained? Always. She's entertained, right on. Boys and girls, moving on from camera bags, but lingering in how to carry your camera, I want to get into camera slings. I've flipped right over to blackrapid.com because they're one of the main makers of, excusez-moi, blame the beer. Belgian beer, no less. Yes, they're the fine purveyors of camera slings, like we're hopefully seeing on screen. This is, of course, a design that gets away from the traditional around-the-neck camera strap, and personally, I'm a huge fan of it, because like you heard on bags and backpacks, I like to watch out for my spine, as well as, use physics intelligently by working smarter and not harder on my spine. So I'm a big fan of the old camera sling and getting away from that around the neck model. I would say if you're going to stay on the around the neck model for travel photography, if you're going to be dragging around a camera for 4, 6, 8 hours on that holiday, do get a thicker strap than the one they give you. And then on the camera sling side of things, you can see we've got physics in motion towards distributing the weight on the camera through the tripod hole and the camera hanging upside down. And as I've had with this Black Rapid, although I sold it for something we'll talk about in a bit, I am a big fan of the sport model, where it's just a single sling and then reinforcement up top with that little clip that you can see goes between the armpit and stops the thing from moving around and sliding about. All you have to do to take a photo with this, I mean, if you're looking on the small video, you reach to the camera on your waist, you pull it up, you click, 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 and then you let it drop. It's just that easy. It's going to be safe. It's going to sling down. And if you look carefully on the screen we're at, we've got these little black clips that let you lock it. So you could even lock it up on your chest if you want to, or tell it, I don't want it to go any further behind me. then wherever you lock the clip. And with that design, then quickly you get to the multi-strap. Lots of other straps and designs, says Black Rapid, and they're not lying. We got varieties on the slings, but I think here, and especially as a photographer who travels with more than one camera, well, I guess we're going to have to view products on Black Rapid's site. I'll try and make this quick and painless. There we go. The double breathe camera harness, trusted strap design. And this, boys and girls, is essentially the same exact thing, but done twice. This is the kind of thing that is totally my bag because it means I can have two cameras. And also for the weight distribution, I'm working a little bit sweeter towards my spine. Same design principle applies. You put that into the mount they give you that goes into your tripod hole on your camera. And you follow around, of course. Then you get to slide it up and down. Do whatever you like. Take all the pickies that get you fame and glory. I think it's real cool. I did not buy this one, which is what we're going to talk about in a second. And, I mean, I'd recommend one. I'd recommend one, especially if you have more than one camera. It's just a no-brainer. And, you know, $134 is an investment, but I think it's pretty fair. The Black Rapid one is solid. I don't have a screen pulled up on it, but I do know for a fact, because I have one someone here in the old equipment locker, there are eBay copies of this that are like $20. So if you want to try it out with a little less fashion, a little less refinement, especially when you get to the clips, the clip mountings on the actual strap itself, they work perfectly, but they're just a little bit uglier, but they're only $20. So if you're a budget photographer, you just want to try this design before investing big time, do know that there is an option on eBay. Just do a search for camera harness or double camera harness, and it'll show up. Take a look. I have one of them. I've used it more than a few times. Works fine. It's just not as refined as a Black Rapid design because, of course, it's a copy and it's not $134. Another option to consider when we are looking at these camera harnesses is the one I invested in. This is a little bit of a luxury that we did a couple years into our photo tour. Just like having a beer on air is a luxury. Damn, it's nice to live in civilized time. We get to the, I get approval from the wife for that. Yes, we get to the luxury camera strap market. And in this case, we're at Holdfast Gear. Holdfast has been producing some very, very nice camera harnesses that go beyond the synthetics that you saw over there on the Black Rapid design. Many designs from a single sling to a double. I myself invested in a Moneymaker double camera harness. And I've used this on my travel photos. I took it down to Croatia. I used it in Paris when we went down there. And essentially, whenever I've had a chance, I believe I took it to Canada last time for my dad's 75th, and of course, a little photography. Yes, I've had mine for a good 4 or 5 years and used and abused it very, very happily. I can really highly recommend it as far as the look and the overall build of it. Comfort-wise, I find you do lose a little bit going to leather compared to the extra padding on the Low Pro, the Black Rapid or its eBay copy. But obviously, you do gain a lot of finesse, and you know it just looks good, and it feels good enough without that extra padding that I'm not complaining. One extra thing I'd also point out, this is part of the investment side of things, because this is, I believe, $285. Yes, you will have your choice of leathers and everything else, so invest wisely and think about how, if you're investing in this, if you're, like me, a portrait photographer, an event photographer, occasionally a wedding photographer, if the couple doesn't smell like crazy, I'll appreciate that investment of having a very nice looking harness instead of something looking a little more synthetic and blah. So yeah, options there, and we invested. I was very, very pleased to get the Moneymaker by Holdfast. And while we're talking about camera stuff and how to join it up to your body, aside from throwing it in a bag. I just want to throw a quick mention out to Peak Design for one of their designs that I have and I think is worth thinking about. And this is a belt clip, essentially. You don't have to put it just on your belt. I've used mine on my camera bag more than once, both the backpack design and the side mount design. And you can see, essentially, it's a little unit that clicks on to your backpack like so, or so, and so. And then you use the tripod mount, which is also a real tripod mount from Manfrotto for Arca Swiss, two of the big systems. And then you can just have the camera there right on your side, ready to go. I took mine to Croatia, found it useful, especially as I was shooting with 3 cameras on that holiday, because I just jumped into Fuji all full force. And actually, I find it extremely useful, as illustrated in this photo, when I have my big telephoto lens on. It's real convenient to clip it to the chest like that. So I thought that was worth an extra mention. There's also a couple of alternatives to the system, like Spider. That's more of a loose, big round thing that drops into a side harness. But I have and own the Peak Design, and for travel photography, it's served me very well over the ages. Here, just going to take a quick peek for questions. What about the sling camera bag? Chantal, thank you for that question, Chantal. Well, I talked about that quickly, Chantal, for the sling camera bag. If you mean the brand, tell you what, I'm going to just run a quick Google, and you can all see it. Are we talking about a bag in particular? Oh, of course you are. Yes. I've had one of these, Chantal. Thank you for asking our first question of the night to Chantal, and it's a good one. Or our first travel photography question for the night from Chantal. Yes, gang, this is a single strapped backpack design, like you can see. I've had the Low Pro one, but we're just clicking over to the first link to try and be efficient here. You've got essentially a camera bag that works in a single strap design so that you can just sling it over. And I mean, it's on your back, you see a shot, you just unclip that little clip that we can see down there. I think these are really good, Chantal. You know, I sling it over, I pull out the camera from the side pocket that I think is here on this model. Yep, on the side. And then I'm ready for action. I gotta say, I stopped using mine and eventually sold it, mainly because I found I was getting a shoulder ache on one side from having all the weight biased towards there. But this is, again, where camera bags become a bit individual and you kind of have to see for yourself. I would say if you got this one, maybe don't get the biggest one. Partly for the weight, but also I've seen it on tour where they have the 350-liter one, the full size. And it seems to just be difficult to keep in place. And it usually ends up more towards their hip and their hand than on their back. So, great question, Chantal. Thank you for that. Hey, cool. Rock and roll. What else we got here? Jeffrey saying, hey. Lily saying, hey. People saying, hey. I might have read it before, but it feels good. What else we got? Here, I'm just going to click over. Maybe I can see questions just a little bit better here. Afraid not. Bear with me, folks. I am a team of one, aside from my lovely assistant on the side just looking beautiful. But that's why we keep her off camera, because she's mine. Let me just take a look. Questions. No, we're looking pretty clear here. She's shaking her head, so the show is rolling as normal. Yes, we have 15 minutes left, and we've had not enough questions, so why don't we move forward? We still have some more things to think about for our travel photography needs, and that's going to be in a second. Like we were just talking about, the Peak Design camera clip system, very cool and suave, and maybe a nice little accessory to throw on the road. Then we get to tripods as we move away from what we were just chatting about. I clicked over here just as a starting point to Joby, the Gorilla Pod design. I think a lot of you know. It's that little flexible bald system. That means that you can put your camera on top and wrap it around something or use it as a tripod. And it goes up depending on how your camera goes up in size, or actually even to your needs. You can see this is made more for the compact camera. Why don't we make that a little bit bigger? Can we? No, we cannot. Yeah, we got our compact cameras range. We've got our slightly bigger, getting to mirrorless camera, getting to full frame, bigger camera, and so on and so forth. I mean, at the top end, this looks like the best of the best for GorillaPod. What can we hold? 5 kilograms. And I have a GorillaPod. Here it is, if you're watching me in the corner. Ta-da! It works. I use it. I didn't end up using it as much as I thought when I bought it, but when I have needed it, it's extremely handy. It's also quite small and easy to throw into a bag, so that's definitely a consideration there. And, well, yep, I'm just going to weigh up my heaviest lens that I'm going to be using in such a setup, and then buying appropriately. If anything, I always recommend with tripods or things that are weight reliant, I bought a stabilizer for doing some video work. Get a little bit above the normal capacity that you need. That way you're not stressing the machinery, and you should get your full life cycle out of that gear if it's a little bit of overkill as far as which model you buy. And just, I guess, while we're here, since photography and video are such a mutant world that even yours truly is doing a little more video, you can see here that we have one made for video where you can do panning shots and all that cool stuff. So nifty! And you can think about the GorillaPod if that appeals to you. It beats carrying around a full-size tripod, and obviously with travels, this is going to be something to consider. Before we get to the full-size tripod, I'd just like to, of course, mention the monopod side of things. And this gets pretty wide and spread. I've gone to Manfrotto in this case, huge manufacturer of the old monopods, tripods, and otherwise. I actually have one of their monopods, although not this particular model. Maybe one of the variations, because I have a couple. But yeah, here we have just a nice, simple stick. You can put your camera on top. You can even put a ball head on top if you want to be able to have extra control. And you'll be able to extend that out and be able to take, I wouldn't say a 30-second photo with no shake, but if you happen to need a couple of seconds of stability, you could make do with this with a little practice. And certainly for the bigger lenses, if you're out there doing some nature travel for the birds with the telephoto lens, this would definitely be something to think about. I'm just going to go back a page on the Manfrotto site and grab a little sip of beer because we live in a civilized society. Oh, it's so good in Belgium. I know the world's locked down right now, gang, but get to Belgium when it all stops locking down. We'll be waiting for you. And I do a photo tour as Photo Tour Bruce, so I can justify that statement with a quick plug. Yes, back on the monopod side of things, but not getting too lost. I just wanted to show you that monopods, of course, with the sophistication and development in the market, include getting feet like the model I happen to have, although it's a much older version of this. Yeah, you can see I can fold it right down. I can put those legs away, but I can also have extra stability even to like 5-10 seconds if there's no wind and everything's good by using those feet. Something to consider. Whoops, we already had a tab open for that. Look at me, Mr. Professional. Let's get on to full-size tripods as we talk about travel photography and all the gear and stuff involved. I mean, obviously, we all know what a tripod is, so I don't think I have to explain this concept too much. The main thing you're going to be thinking about with a tripod, well, I hope you're thinking about investing a little bit, because I do find the cheap tripods really are frustrating, and when it comes to that fine alignment that you're probably going to pick up as your photography picks up, they don't quite make the grade. So if I were you, I'd start already looking at 200-300 euros on a good full-size tripod. If you need that full-size tripod because you're really into your photography, I don't think anything I say is going to talk you out of it. And I've been there myself, so, no judgment there. You can consider with tripods, monopods, and a lot of photography equipment, the fact that there are steel versions and aluminium versions, or aluminum, and carbon fiber versions of all these products. So obviously, if you spend a little more cash as you get into the $700-800 side of things, indeed, carbon fiber waterproof tripod. This is from Sirui, by the way. Yes, I got a look from the wife for screwing up that name. Good. That makes me better. It's part of why we're doing this show. Yeah, you can see it was a good look. Don't worry. We got 18 years behind us. Yeah, we can see, gang. They're all shapes and sizes as long as you want 3 legs and to put your camera on top of it. It does get interesting. Where are they? Let's just close mailing list because I got ADD. Boop, boop, boop. Travel tripods. You move away from the full size and extra stability, but you do gain a lot of backpack space, weight reduction, all those sort of things. I would say also, again, on this end, invest. Don't spend $50 thinking you're going to get great results, especially as you get to these, more precisely engineered requirements or situations. And you can see with Surui, they do a nice one. It folds flat down to the ground in that last shot, doesn't it? Yep, there it goes. And it extends, in this case, to the height of 120 centimeters, which for me is pretty good. It's going to cost me $350, and it's still going to be a little bit bigger than if I go for a smaller model. But for me, that would be, it's on my shopping list, so I have to say this as it would be. It would be the one I'd be looking at, whether it's Surui or otherwise. Something out of carbon fiber, something that has a good height. Load capacity of 6 kgs is definitely going to fit all my camera needs, even if I'm on the full frame. And it only weighs 205 grams for the head, about a kilo altogether. So that's pretty manageable for the advantage I'll have. One little thing I can add actually on the tripods is a travel tip I picked up through my travels, especially in India where it was really cheap and easy to have one of these made. Find a bag that doesn't look like a camera or tripod bag for this. A long tube or something that in transit doesn't scream, hey, look, I've got a camera and a bunch of equipment. That's going to help your travel photography in the sense that your gear isn't going to be ripped off. So things to consider. Away from the gear side of things, we'll talk about beyond that in a second. Of course, just to make sure, as we're in the tail end of the show, that I'm not missing any of your questions. Let me just bounce around for a moment, boys and girls. Isn't it fun self-producing a show and all that stuff? I see no questions. Have I scared you all away? Are you all gone yet? Oh, good. All right. Note there are still a couple of viewers left. I see little in the name of questions, and that's fine, especially on episode 1. Boy, thank you again for joining me. So, kids, we'll just power through with some of this photography talk I have on travel photography. And since we've covered the bag, we've covered how to clip it onto your body in one way or another. What was the last thing? Tripods. Boy, being on air. Yeah, that is covering a lot of the gear side of things. Obviously, I have more to consider there, but we only got an hour. Maybe a little more because it's my show and I'll go on as long as I want. I see a quick little message being sent. That's totally irrelevant to our show, so we don't have to worry. Yes, boys and girls, I am on the 500px website, and this is away from the gear side of things because I want you to think about before you travel, not just in the gear sense, but also in the what am I going to see, what am I going to do? Now, obviously, you're going to have your travel guide stuff where you look at your books, your websites, your maps, all that, and you're going to figure out locations and things to think about. So that's certainly something already to put up front. But I think we already know about that part, or it's obvious enough. We don't really have to have a couple of tabs on the browser open here. What I want to talk about is getting inspired by others. And for that, what I would do is go to 500px or flickr.com. I type in the name of the place I'm going. Let's call it Bruges, because I'm here in Bruges, Belgium, and it is gorgeous, so you should visit too. And as you can see, I get a whole bunch of photos thrown out. Boy, are these spots familiar. Some of these photos are very, very nice too. And if I click on one, oh, thank you for sneezing, wife. Keeps us so professional. Don't worry, compared to me, you're looking fine. Yes. If we look on this, note we only get to know it's in Bruges, but what I want to think about when I look at photo sites is maybe getting a visual of some places that are obvious. In Bruges, we only have 4 windmills, so that's got to be the view of one of them. It's actually one of the main ones, as you could see if you join me as Photo Tour Bruges. But when they are geotagged and it's been shared with the viewer, that means that, I'm just seeing if I can find one. Nope, not so much. Yeah, Bruges, but not exactly where. But if I do have those geotagged properly, I mean, already I'm going to get an idea of the place. It's a place with canals, medieval architecture, lots of beauty and gorgeousness, and a fine Belgian beer. Yeah. I wonder why I only got a couple of viewers on launch. That's great. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages and sorts and types, if you get this right while you're digging around a site like 500px, you'll at least get ideas on the place, but you'll also get to maybe even see exactly where that photo was taken. And that can be quite interesting, just to give you a few ideas. I mean, obviously, if you're just, where are we? On the main page. Oh, nope, that's someone's profile. Boo, boo, boo. But yes, if we were on the main page and kept seeing the name Windmills or Rosenhoodkai or this particular site, which is the Rosenhoodkai, the world-famous postcard corner of town, that's going to give me ideas and basically let me start building a list of things I want to get as I travel to this place for photography or otherwise. So yeah, quick little hack and cheat there beyond the gear. In a related way, and actually with much more focus, simply with the disclosure that I'm a contributor to it, you can go to PhotoHound. And this is photohound.co, formerly known as Snap Guides. This is, like they say, a community of photographers who love to share. They do curated guides and map out photography locations more often than not using a local expert like myself. And I've contributed to this for Bruges. I don't know. It's still in beta, so I'm not sure we can do a search. But essentially, gang, when you go to PhotoHound, you'll see somewhere like coastal Montenegro, and you'll be able to scroll down, get an introduction on the place, and then you'll get to see the actual location itself named out. It's going to have... Oh, you got to log in. Sorry. But yes, trust me when I say that it will show you suggestions on specifically that location for photography. What camera was used, what time of day, some suggestions from a local expert like myself saying maybe come by here in the morning or in the evening, or maybe both, but avoid the crowds more in the evening. That's something that I found PhotoHound very, very, very much worth mentioning. And like I said, I'm a contributor to this. It was formerly an app with localized guides, as in you buy a guide for Bruges, and I'd contributed to that. It all got moved over to PhotoHound, and I was happy to stay on because I think it's an excellent effort. And also I can add with this one that they are caring about the world and the photo community as well as those beyond, because you might not even see all of the locations if it's become a photo pit of over-tourism or something crazy. So they practice responsible photography, which I think is something that just makes it above and beyond the rest. Hey, responsible photography is good. So is Andy double-checking what's going on here. Any last questions before we get off air? Does not look so. That's all right, boys and girls. I've appreciated the questions that have come in and look forward to more. To remind you, before I give you my last tip on the old travel photography, this is happening every Sunday at 8 p.m. Bruges, Central European Time. It's over here on facebook.com/Andy McPhoto. And the next day, the recording will be posted to youtube.com/Andy McPhoto. Please, of course, while you're there, don't be shy to subscribe, like, do all that stuff, get notifications especially. All that will both let you see my work as well as make the algorithms on those social media platforms happy. So I get all sorts of glory and keep getting to do what I love, which is sharing my photography. Excuse the beer. Boys and girls, last tip of the day before we sign off for this very first episode of Andy's Photo Show every Sunday at 8 p.m. Central European Time is, where are we? join me. Join me as Photo Tour Bruges. Find yourself a photo guide if you're doing your travel photography and want to improve your results. Whether it's like me showing you locations, giving you ideas on photo tips, or just sample photos so that you can take inspiration, get along with things. Hey, I know it's a plug, but geez, the photo tour concept. I got this going in 2012 and there weren't many around, and now there are a whole bunch and they look to be awesome in so many cases. So, think about it. And for those of you from Bruges, in this beautiful city that has adopted me so kindly for the last 8 years of business and the last 18 years of Mrs. Andy putting up with me in this fine home, I do remind you that it's good to explore your city with fresh eyes, so you can join me as Photo Tour Bruges if you wish. Ik praat een beetje Nederlands, so that is geen probleem. Je parle aussi très bien français, alors si ça vous intéresse, on peut pratiquer notre français, which... excuse me, it's been an hour. For you those language speakers, just as saying that I speak more than English and I'd be happy to help. But yes, photo guides and finding people who know the lay of the land for photography is a very good way to improve your travel photography results. Even if you're, serious into the game and know what you're doing, you might get a fresh perspective. If nothing else, if they're doing their job properly, like I've been trying to with spotless reviews since 2012. My dog snorted at that. It's that good. Yes, boys and girls, you will have somebody showing you around in the right light for the cool sights on the camera side of things. If you join me as Photo Tour Bruges, please feel free to use the discount code ThisPhotoLife as one word. I'm going to make one for this show, but that code, ThisPhotoLife on checkout, will give you 15% off any tour, open tour, private tour, because of course we do both for the budgets and for the tastes in photography. And yes, we are corona safe. I will wear a mask and keep my distance and all that stuff. So, a whole bunch of stuff about travel photography, and I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface. I could have, like I said, gone on all night, because if I go to my control panel of video and turn off Firefox browser, but then click on Lightroom, well, you can see there are so many things that you can do for your travel photography, and I've been busy doing mine, especially here in Bruges as Photo Tour Bruges. So if this were more than an hour, we might get into those. Look at how beautiful this city is. Ba-boom. Look at how gorgeous this place can be. Ba-boom. That's just even a statue. Oh, yes, we could get into all of that, including even the street photography and catching moments of life. But we only have an hour here on Andy's Photo Show every Sunday evening, 8 p.m. Central European Time on Facebook.com/Andy McPhoto, as well as YouTube.com/Andy McPhoto. That also sort of indicates that we're towards the end of our time together. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you also so much for those of you who asked questions, even if they weren't about travel photography. That means the spirit is up and we're doing something right. So I thank you for that. He says, taking a last look. Oh, I get good tips from Landy. Thank you, brother. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this very first episode of Andy's Photo Show. And there it is. I am your host, Andy McSweeney of Andy McSweeney Photography. Feel free to join me at andymcsweeney.com, where you can watch this all over again, as well as check out more of my photo tips, advice, as well as, of course, photography. It is recently rebooted in a fresh design and layout kind of way so that you can find what you need quicker as you need it. And feel free to join me next Sunday at 8 p.m. Central European Time. You can ask me questions in any language you like, and Google Translate at worst will tell me what to do. So that's me, Andy McSweeney. Oh, and of course, Andy McSweeney of Photo Tour Bruges. Join me. This Photo Life as a promo code for 15% off. Yeah, I have some work on the talking and plugging, but that's why we do these endeavors, my friends. You got to start somewhere, and it's nice to be officially started. Thank you for tuning in. That is me. Peace out. Enjoy yourselves. And of course, get out there and get shooting. See ya, he says, having to turn off the program. Bye. How was that? I'm an energetic little bunny on camera, aren't I?
On camera.
Ah.
What's that?
Thank you. I had at most 5 years at once. Whee!